to another episode of Literature Podcast. I'm Joanna.
And I'm Mich.
And today we will each be discussing our top 5 favorite villains.
I feel like a lot of the times, villains are very misunderstood, and, to their own story, they're obviously not the villains. Usually in a villain's story, the good guys are usually their villains, and honestly, villains have reasons to why they're evil and why they do what they do, in my opinion.
Yeah, nobody is ever the villain in their own perspective, and usually if they have evil traits or things that maybe are frowned upon, there's normally some sort of good reason or noble cause from their point of view that you just don't see if you are the good guy in your story as well. Good guy.
Good guy. He's a good guy.
Good guy. Good girl.
That guy is a good guy. But without further ado, let's get into this. So, my first favorite villain is going to be Count Olaf from A Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. This character is diabolical, he's shifty, he's sketchy, he's hilarious, and he's stupid as all hell at times. But he is truly the master of disguise, even if you can plainly see through every single disguise, and it's really only the adults in the book that he can trick. But I love this character so much, even though he's evil. Something about him just makes you so annoyed with him, yet at the same time you almost hope for his life to turn out okay, because obviously he's the way he is from past heartache and having such a crappy life growing up, and I just love this character so much.
Count Olaf, he's hilarious. I always loved him as a kid too. He's still one of the best.
He is. He's misunderstood.
Yeah, at least he's funny while he's being a horrible person.
Mm-hmm. He really is. He's hilarious.
My first villain I can't actually name, but it's the Assassin of Venda from The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. If you have read this or know anything about this, well, you know that you don't actually know who is the assassin at first. It tells you eventually, but obviously I cannot say without ruining stuff. But this character, the more you learn about him, he's a survivor, and there's reasons as to why he is the way he is, and I love him.
That sounds interesting.
It's really good.
All right. So my second one, and I know she's a bitch, and I know it's going to be a wildly unpopular opinion, and I get it, and I get that we're supposed to absolutely hate her, but I kind of actually really loved Amarantha from A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Obviously, I don't condone basically anything that she does, especially Therese and the rest of everyone that she's got locked up. But her fiery personality and her intensity and the fact that you have no idea what she's going to do makes her one of my top villains. She's even, I think Sarah J. Maas has said that she loves writing Amarantha, and I don't know, there's just something about her that is just she's a top villain in my opinion.
She's a pretty intense villain.
Mm-hmm.
I would not want to be against her, to be honest.
No, not at all. And she's doing it mainly she has a crush on Tamlin. That's basically why she's doing everything. Girls get a little crazy when they have a crush.
My next one is actually a trio of villains.
Mm.
The Sanderson sisters, of course. Winifred, Sarah, and Mary from Hocus Pocus. And yes, I know that they are just trying to suck the lives out of children just so they can be young and beautiful. And yes, I know that sucking the life out of the youth is probably frowned upon in society, but I love them. Winnie's very dramatic, and she's very sadistic. Mm-hmm. And then Sarah's really adorable and kind of annoyingly flirty. And they're always trying to pull her back. And then Mary's just quirky and not down to earth, especially when she's riding her vacuum. But them together was always fun to watch as a kid. And I'm so happy they came out with a book this year, because it was really exciting to actually read their personalities.
Okay, another villain that I actually kind of thought was misunderstood is Valentine Morgenstern from the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare. Yes, he's an asshole, and he's obviously had done horrible things, but he had a horrible upbringing. He was raised to hate downworlders and has some horribly misguided ideals that were passed on from his dad. When he came of age, he headed to the Shadowhunter Academy, finally away from his abusive family. Can't talk today. He excelled in high school. He was super smart, super charismatic, and ended up falling in love. So yeah, he gathers a group of students who share his beliefs that Shadowhunters are the superior race meant to protect the mundanes, which, essentially they are, right? But they go a little bit overboard, if you will, and they start to believe that they should get rid of downworlders altogether. I can see how in his mind this would make sense to keep the humans safe. If you were to take out all of the potential threats, like werewolves, demons, vampires, then obviously they'd be doing their duty by keeping mundanes safe. So I get it. I get where he was coming from. Even if the tactics he used were completely wrong, I can see what made him that way. But what I liked about him was that throughout it all, yes, I guess he did experiment on his unborn children, which, again, is a dick move. But he truly does love his kids and wife, and most of the time going through the story, he just wants his wife back, and he just wants to be with his daughter and his wife and have that relationship with them. So I get it, because he's technically never learned what a healthy relationship is from his parents. So I just felt bad for him most of the time. I don't know if you've read this series.
I haven't. That's my 2019 goal, to finally read the series completely.
It's such a good series. I loved it all. And there are still books coming out. There's one coming out in 2 weeks. So.
It's a good thing I'm getting started next year.
Soon.
Alright, my next one's pretty obscure, unless you've read it. But my next villain is the Wood from Uprooted by Naomi Novik. In the beginning of this book, you follow this main character named Agnieszka? Agnieszka? I don't know. But anyway, this main character loves her village and her home. But there's this forest that's called the Wood that is like right on the border of where she lives. So people don't go into the forest. They don't want to go near the forest. If it's dark, you just get the fuck back inside of your house, you psycho. But not only do they not go in it, there's things that come out of it. There's creatures that come. They might attack your village. They might steal your loved ones. You probably won't see your loved ones again, but if you do, they might come back and seem totally fine and then kill their families in their sleep. Like it's no big deal.
Oh, Lord.
It's a very eerie, it's very creepy. For a fantasy novel, it was creepier than probably most of the horror books I've read in my life. But later, when you get into the book, you deal with the wood a lot, but there's a lot of explanation. And I was heartbroken at the end of this book. Like, it killed me. I love it so much.
So, my next one is going to be The Darkling from the Grishaverse, like the Shadow and Bone trilogy by Leah Bardugo. And when you start out the books, you don't actually really know or see who the bad guy is. He's just kind of this dark, handsome, creepy kind of guy that's there. And the further into the books you go, you just can't help but admire this character's wickedness. He's super smart. He's not really the villain. I don't know. He knows how to be the bad guy, but he also has like a super soft side to him at times. He's one of those villains that aren't, like, you basically feel like he's doing the right thing, even though it's evil. You can't help but love him, or at least, I couldn't. But he's just such a complex character that it's hard to even, like, wrap your mind around. Like, yes, he does evil things, but I don't know if he's technically evil, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I really liked him. And I liked how personal scenes between him and a couple of the other characters get. And you don't usually see that type of depth to villains.
Please don't. I have not read this trilogy yet.
You need to.
Again, 2019.
Oh my goodness.
But you did talk about the Darkling in one of our past episodes.
Yeah.
The fictional
book boyfriend.
For my next one, I have Schmeagol / Gollum from Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Let's be honest, he's kind of a psychopath for the entire duration that we really know him. I don't know exactly how he was prior to the ring, but he was not able to ward off the power of the One Ring and, like, instantly succumbed to its power. Like, the moment he laid eyes on it. Like, he hadn't even touched it yet, and he had to friggin' have it. And then he threw away his entire life and all of his relationships, his entire being of being a hobbit for this ring. And he does horrible things for it. But in the end, he does help the hobbits. And he does fight with himself so hard. And I love any scene with him, like, at all. Like,
Yeah.
loving the riddles and... And just
I love Gollum.
yeah,
He's hilarious.
I enjoy his character a lot. Would not want to deal with him personally.
Nope. All right. So this is my last one, and I've saved my absolute most favorite villain for last. I love her with every fiber of my being. Queen Lavanna from the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Mayer. She is my top villain. Throughout the entire series, she's the villain, like from start to finish. But there was also a book called Fairest, which is a prequel novella to the Lunar Chronicles. And that book is all about Lavanna. Her entire backstory of how she became the way she was. This was one of the reasons why I've become a bit more understanding of villains in stories, was reading this book. It made me feel so bad for her. She's gone through so many struggles in her life. She had a super shitty sister. She had horrible parents. Basically, all she wanted was to be loved and cared for. And unfortunately, with her super toxic family and her horrendous upbringing, even though she was a princess, she obviously doesn't know how to go about finding the love that she craves. So she ends up making some wildly bad choices, some huge mistakes. There's some impersonating that she does, because if you know their race, they can kind of morph to whatever they want you to see. And because of her past, like, they're not things that she sees as mistakes. She's manipulative, she's ruthless, she's calculating, but I don't think she's actually evil. I think she was just born into the wrong family, and that kind of led her into the wrong direction. But she is by far my most absolute favorite villain on the planet. I love her. Have you read the series?
I haven't, but you did give me...
I did give you Fairest.
Yes, you did.
Yep.
For when I finally jump into this series, I have a very big commitment issue with series, apparently.
Apparently.
Well, some of them. And then
you really just need to jump in.
Just jump in.
Head first.
But I'm really excited about this series, mostly because of how much you love this character. Because
I love her
I
so
already
much.
love villains usually more than like who you're supposed to like.
I'm okay with villains. Like, I like villains, you know? But she made me love specific villains.
Go her. Queen Lavanna.
Woo!
Alright. My last one is from a series. A freaking long series. But Melisandre from A Song of Ice and Fire series. Some of you may know her as the Red Woman or the Red Witch. I don't know. Honestly, I feel like every character has like 50,000 aliases that you just kind of figure out along the way.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Melisandre, I think it depends on your perspective on if she's a villain or not, just like, you know, every villain. But she is so powerful. She's probably one of the most powerful characters in that series at all, or probably period. That's just my opinion. But her shadow magic is really intense. Her blood magic, her glamour, if any of you know what I'm talking about. Like, she can resurrect people. I don't know what she can't do. She can pretty much do anything, but she's definitely one of the coolest characters in the whole world. I love her. I wish I could read more about her, to be honest. But
every book should do like a backstory on the villains.
Oh my gosh, that would take years to write. There's so many villains in Game of Thrones. I'm pretty sure we could do a whole episode of just really awful people in A Song of Ice and Fire series. Like. That was all we had for today's episode. What are some of your favorite literary villains? Be sure to let us know in the comments.
If you'd like to get more lit, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, CastBox, or anywhere else you listen to us. All of our other social media is linked below.
If you like this episode, be sure to give it a like or rate our podcast. It really helps us to keep doing what we love.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.